I found my birth parents, and then I found out. They are not only married, but also have 8 children. I was utterly shocked to learn the reason why they gave me away. At the age of 3 months, I was adopted. Growing up, I lived in a troubled household, yet I was nonetheless loved and cared for. My adoptive parents, my mom 3 years ago at the age of 24 and my dad when I was 17, both died in separate auto accidents. My adoption was semi-open, but when I was younger than a year old, my biological parents asked that my adoptive parents stop giving them updates and pictures of me. I grew up knowing my birth parents' names and had multiple pictures of them, but I only had a hazy notion of who they were. I was astonished to learn that after taking a DNA test, I matched with 3 full siblings. They were young, hardly knew one another, and wanted to continue their study, I was often informed. I chose to Google their names about 3 months ago and I discovered their social media accounts. It turns out that they are now married and have 7 more kids together. I spent some time stalking them on Facebook and it appears that they have a rather content existence. I was surprised to learn that although my sister seems the closest in age, she's actually only 11 months my junior. I had 7 full siblings. Finding out that I have an older, full brother who was not adopted out and is only a year and a few months older than me startled me even more. I eventually used Facebook to get in touch with my biological mother, telling her that I've had a wonderful life and that I have no expectations and that I would love to get to know her. After a month, she finally replied, stating that she was shocked that I had gotten in touch and asking that I not get in touch with my siblings since they aren't aware of my existence. After a few days of silence, I finally asked her why she had decided to give me up and why she had never told anyone about me. In response, she replied that I was a newborn in the NICU. When I was born, she and my birth father were just 17 years old, and they were unprepared to parent a kid with disabilities. She claimed that at the time, they believed I would never be able to live on my own and that they were unfit to have a child with special needs. I was stunned once more. Up until puberty, I was undoubtedly in the lower growth category, but by the time I was 8 months old, my grandma said I was meeting all the milestones for typical mental development. I graduated from a top 1 university with an MS in mathematics. In high school, I was an athlete, and my only academic problems were in art class. Other than that, I had no problems at all. I have a child and am married. It aches to know that, despite being a completely functional adult with a great profession and a family of my own, I was abandoned because there was a remote possibility that I wouldn't meet expectations. Being an only child, I sometimes feel that I lost out on the opportunity to grow up with siblings, that my daughter could have cousins, and that I could still get to know and love them. I wish I had the opportunity to have a typical sibling relationship with my younger siblings, or at the very least, be involved in their life from an early age, as they aren't even in primary school now. I don't resent my birth parents, nor am I upset with them for giving me away. Though I'm hurt, I'm not upset. They've asked me not to contact my older siblings, which enrages me, but I'm thinking about doing it nevertheless. Relevant comments from OP. Too late, since we've already had our face-to-face meeting. I've found that many of them know individuals I know. The oddest thing is that, after friending my sisters on Facebook, we really have mutual connections in real life. Maybe I'm taking things too quickly and trying to keep my heart safe. In my initial post, I made mention of adult siblings. I never intended to get in touch with my younger biological siblings without getting permission from their birth parents. Later that day, we all met up at a park with our masked children. There were 2 of my brothers by birth. I was shown poetry and essays written by my elder biological brother when he was younger, most of which had some variation on the theme of the sisters who went away. It shattered my heart, and he told me he never stopped thinking about our other biological sister, who was adopted out several years after I was, and me, he learned about me through our biological grandma. This morning I had breakfast, outdoor, with my 2 biological brothers. I met my biological father and grandma over Zoom, and we found out they live in the same area. On the way home, I waved to them from the porch, and this afternoon in their front yard, my daughter performed some pretty excellent cartwheels for them. My youngster received supportive words and kisses from her biological grandmother. She is currently quilting her. Tomorrow, I get to meet my sister, who is precisely 2 years younger than me. We share the same birth date, and my biological sister, who is only 11 months younger than me. Now that I'm older than 18, I communicate with all of my biological siblings. My younger sister was similarly adopted at the age of 6 months. She is amputated below the knee, and our biological parents were unable to provide for her. All of us grew up 40 kilometers apart. I'm meeting both of my sisters tomorrow. We both work in the same field. My older brother and I attended the same university, however, I don't remember ever seeing him. Seeing your face in other people's faces is really strange. According to my biological grandmother, I never thought they would want to get to know and love me, miss me every year. To be honest, it doesn't bother me if I never get to know my biological parents. I have no regrets reaching out, even though I realize a lot of this is extremely new, and I'm not sure if it will all work out in the end. My life has been wonderful because of my adoptive parents. Even if it wasn't flawless, it was ours, and I miss them every day. The fact that they were never able to meet my partner or daughter hurts my heart. I feel like I have a chance at having an extended family, even though I know that this won't make up for their passing. Twice, my biological parents decided to place their two biological children who might have trouble in foster care. I now understand that I was adopted out along with my young biological sister due to our less than desirable handicaps. Physically, I was physically delayed until I was almost 2 years old, and my sister needed a below-the-knee amputation a few months after she was born. My parents placed both of us up for adoption, keeping the kids they thought were appropriate. I highly doubt that ableism is not at play here. In reality, I'm a mathematician, as is my biological sister. It is evident that humans are capable of developing into nearly normal adults. We are fortunate to live in a nation with robust public health care and social safety nets. They most likely would have been eligible for government support. Although my younger biological sister was adopted at the age of 6 months and, based on what I've heard, was placed in an abusive home, I'm more unhappy about her adoption than I am about mine. Admittedly, my biological brother is the only one from whom I've heard firsthand. My biological parents reportedly got married at the age of 18, but not before having 3 kids. That is obviously untrue in my instance. My adopted grandmother has informed me that, from what she's heard, that was never the case. Growing up, I never heard anything like that about my own parents. I have a strong feeling that the woman I was born with is lying. My time as a developmentally delayed child was brief. For the remainder of my life, I operated at a typical above-average level. My height has increased to average. I have a wonderful career, live alone, and have a family of my own. We live in a nation with an extremely robust social safety net, so my birth parents wouldn't have needed to spend the majority of their income. I'm not a native of either Canada or the US. My opinions regarding my biological parents are entirely mine, and I have every right to voice them. When you decide to adopt out 2 of every 4 children over the course of 4 years, it is inappropriate to continuously push out children. I have no qualms with stating that. I feel sympathy for parents of disabled children who live in nations without resources. In the nation where I reside, it is not at all the case. Those who abandon disabled children are not inherently bad or callous, in my opinion. I do believe that those who continue to have children after having almost all of their own, then discard the 2 they deem to be flawed, are in error. Update. Now that I've met them all, my siblings. 8 siblings were born out of what had initially been 7 after I found out I had a full sister who was also adopted. For the last 9 days, I have been with one of my siblings every day. 2 adult sisters and 3 adult brothers make up my family. 2 years ago, my sister, who was also adopted, got back in touch with them. She wasn't raised with them, but you would never know. All 5 of them worked together so well. If I claimed they didn't feel like strangers to me, that would be lying. Even though it has only been a little over a week, I feel like I've known the 5 of them my entire life, in certain aspects. They address our younger siblings as second litter and refer to themselves as the first batch. In our language, it's funnier and catchier. Hey, I've joined the social media and SMS threat group known as the first batch. It's strange and crazy. It's almost as if I'm seeing a closest friend again after being split apart by tragedy or war, even though they're completely unknown to me. My biological brother is 29 years old. Although I will turn 28 in a few weeks, my younger biological sister and I are both 27 years old. On the day I turn 28, my younger sister, who was also adopted, will turn 26. The youngest of my grown siblings are twins. They are 23 years old. It's winter on all of our birthdays. What my birth parents went through is beyond my comprehension. 6 children, between the ages of 15 and 21, were born to my birth mother. I can see why she gave 2 of her kids away for adoption. I can't imagine how much responsibility she has. There is a significant age difference between my 3 siblings, a brother who is 12 and 2 younger than 6, and the 6 of us who are grown-ups. 4 days ago, my biological grandparents made arrangements for me to meet all 3 of them through my birth father. My 4-year-old biological sister is the youngest. Other than my own kid, she is the cutest young girl I have ever encountered. She approached me, pulled me to her height, and then put her hand on my hair. "Do you know you have curly hair?" she asked. She informed me that we were now twins, as we were the only sisters with curly hair when I nodded. I laughed and sobbed. My own daughter is older than my youngest brother. My biological brother, 12, gave me a hug and started crying uncontrollably. Out of 9 people, only 2 have brown hair. The others have strawberry and blonde tones. He and I have a lot in common. I'll say it again. Seeing your own face in other people's faces is really strange. I've never had it, and during the past week and a half, the shock of having the same features and behaviors as everyone around me has overcome me. When I met my birth father, he told me that, even at his young age, he believed he made the correct decision and was pleased with how well I turned out. More often than not, he sobbed. The first batch of siblings and I had a video conversation last night, and I also got to know 3 of my first cousins over Zoom. These are the kids of my biological aunt. They are a set of siblings, a younger brother and a female cousin, all quite similar in age to me. Although one of my male cousins resides in our nation, he married a local girl and the 2 of them have a kid who is the same age as mine. They were born and raised in North America with an American father. On Monday, I'll be meeting him and his spouse. I wept when I saw my female cousin's face on the TV since we had such similar features. My siblings and I have a lot of physical similarities. It's obvious that we are linked. But my cousin and I laugh at the same things and have the same expression. Hearing an American accent coming from my own face was really strange. My brothers and this set of cousins are quite close. My female cousin works as cabin crew flight attendant. I have only ever given serious consideration to this career path in addition to my own. In addition, my husband works in the same field. I've been missing these small coincidences and resemblances for my entire life. She has a degree in math, and we have been texting back and forth today. She and her brothers seem to be making fun of the fact that, rather than being descended from their own parents, they look like mine, and I can see why. I resemble all 3 of them more because they are my biological siblings' brown-haired, darker-eyed twins. Seeing my visage on other people's faces is really odd. I harbor some resentment toward the years I lost because I didn't have any younger siblings to guide me through the unfamiliar world of childhood. Summertime in the United States spent with relatives, one of whom has my dreams and my face. I could never regret the life I've lived, even though my parents were amazing. I've never had siblings, cousins, or grandparents before now. I'm going to see my cousin in person next week, which is a reason I'm traveling to America after COVID-19, something I never thought I'd say. My spouse is also thrilled to have a large extended family. In our country, having children is considered quite young, yet we now know other young parents. Relevant comments from OP. Several family members have expressed their happiness with the way things are working out between my brothers and me, but they don't want to communicate with me at all. My biological sister, who was also adopted out, has essentially been brought back into the family by my biological family. It was just a few years ago that they reconciled. My biological sister lives with our other biological sister, who was not adopted out, and the 3 of them are quite close. She goes to the same family events as my birth mother, but they keep quiet because it suits them both. They exchange loved ones and communicate inanely out of necessity. They don't know each other personally, and my sister respects our biological mother's decision not to get to know her. My birth mother and I will likely have a similar relationship if things work out for me the same way they have for my biological sister. I understand how difficult this must be for her, and I want to do everything in my power to honor her wish to be kept in touch, free from communication, while still building ties with the rest of our family. At first, I was furious, but then I started thinking back to my teenage years, and now I'm just depressed. She seems to have moved past the pain of parting with us, and is content with her life as it is, not reopening old wounds. Our natural mother is never harsh or cruel, according to my biological sister, who is also adopted. Our birth mother freely expresses her discomfort in participating in conversations with my biological sister whenever someone goes too far in pressuring her to do so. She then withdraws from the situation, but she never attempts to shut others down or forbid my biological sister from attending family get-togethers. A paternity test was already completed by my adopted sister when she discovered our biological family. On an Ancestor website, I matched with 3 of my full siblings as full siblings. I was given away for adoption because I was a preemie, my biological mother had a very difficult pregnancy, and my birth parents were misled into believing I would have significant developmental difficulties. When I was born, my birth parents were 17 years old and already had a child. After requiring an amputation, my younger sister was adopted since her biological parents believed they weren't the ideal people to nurture her. They were just 19-20, had 2 kids, and had already placed one for adoption. Their choices were undoubtedly made with ableism in mind. I believe that every one of us interprets this game differently. For her, it can just be an example of what it means to attempt to live a healthy lifestyle. Last night, I actually had dinner with her, my husband, and my birth father. It was really enjoyable. We spoke about TV shows, haircuts, and other things, but nothing about our connection as a family. She didn't say anything about adoption, but she did grin when my brother and father talked about it. Extremely happy to join this family. Age, in my opinion, is a significant influence. I sincerely appreciate your nice sentiments and wish you and your family all the best. Update 2. My daughter went on her 3rd playdate with her 1st and 2nd cousins, aunt and uncle. I never in my life imagined that my child would play with family members of the same age. I was a bit of a loner at all times. Creating friends was difficult. I had no live adopted relations and lost both of my adoptive parents when I was quite young. My spouse is the sole child. I never imagined having a large family either for my daughter or for myself. Her great-grandparents, and who were residents of our area, are still alive. I will never downplay the affection my adopted parents felt for me. They were incredible, but I had a broken upbringing filled with heartbreaking loneliness. It has been a lonely existence for me. Now, if something unexpected happened, I feel like I would have people there to support me and my child, a safety net. Update 3. Everything is fantastic. At this point, I find it hard to believe there was a life before my siblings. There are moments when I nearly forget. I recently returned from a vacation in America with my older brother and a cousin from my biological family. This is the furthest extent of my extended family that I currently have. Not even a first cousin. More like a first cousin once removed, it resembles a different life. My birth mother and I don't talk much, but we spend a lot of time together, and she's a great grandmother to my 2 kids in addition to being kind and smiling all the time. My sister, who was adopted as well, just tied the knot.